Hi, welcome back to my class in Mathematics of Investment. For today, we will study how to compute interest on credit cards using one of the most common methods for computing interest on credit cards, and it's called average daily balance method. And this method is called average daily balance method because the interest is computed based on the daily balance amount on credit cards. The, the daily balance at the end of each day over a period of the billing period or billing cycle are added and is divided by the number of days in a billing period or billing cycle. For instance, if the bank computes the interest over a period of 30 days, the balance for at the end of each of the 30 days are added and the sum is divided by 30. And this quotient is known as the average daily balance on credit card. And the interest will be computed based on this average daily balance. And the bank charges either an interest that is compounded monthly or interest that is compounded daily. And we will have two examples. One example for interest computations using an interest rate compounded monthly, and interest computations, another example for computing interest on credit cards using an interest rate compounded daily. For our first example, consider the following problem. A bank charges 15% interest compounded monthly on credit cards. Compute the interest on credit card of Nina for the billing period from November 1 to November 15 of 2020. So here we assume that the bank charges interest over a period of 15 days or every 15 days. That is, the billing period is 15 days or the billing cycle is 15 days. And we compute the interest on credit cards of Nina if her balance from the previous billing cycle is 9,710 pesos. This is the balance on the last day of October, and that will be carried over at the beginning of November 1. And she made the following transactions on her credit card. On November 2, she bought a medicine. She bought medicines using her credit card, and the medicine was worth 864 pesos. On November 3, she made a purchase in a department store using her credit card, and she paid an amount worth 1,975 pesos. On November 6, she took a Grab, and she paid using her credit card, totaling 314 pesos. On November 9, she made a payment on her credit card to reduce her balance. She made a payment to the bank for her credit card, an amount of 5,000 pesos. On November 12, she bought groceries and she used her credit card again to pay the amount of 3,225 pesos. And on November 15, maybe that's in the morning of November 15, this is the last day of the billing period, she paid the bank to reduce her balance in her credit card, and she made a payment of 1,500 pesos. So at the end of the 15th day, or at the end of November 15, we will compute the interest that Nina has to pay for using her credit card. And we will use the average daily balance method. We will prepare a table that will consist of 4 columns. The first column would be the day, which would run from 1 to 15 because our billing period is for 15 days. The second column is the balance at the beginning of each day. And the next column would be the charges on credit card. If she uses her credit card, the payment will be charged on her credit card. And the next column would be the payment if she made a payment to the bank to reduce her balance on her credit card. So, and the last column would be the current balance on her credit card at the end of each day. So actually, the table that we would prepare would consist of 5 columns. The first column is for the day. The second column is for the balance at the beginning of each day. The third column would be the charges on her credit cards if she uses her credit card to make payments. And the fourth column would be the payment to the bank she makes to reduce her balance on her credit cards. And the last column would be the current balance on her credit card at the end of each day. Solution for the computation of interest on credit card of Ninya using the average daily balance method will be presented in a table similar to this. The table consists of 5 columns. The first column is denoted by day, which would run in our example from 1 to 15 because in our example the billing period consists of 15 days. The second column would be the balance at the beginning of each day. The third column would be the charges made on the credit card if Ninya uses her credit card for any purchases. The next column, the fourth column, would be the payment to the bank that Ninya would make to reduce her balance on the credit card, on her credit card. And the last column would be the current balance on her credit card at the end of each day. And we are given at the beginning of the problem that the balance of Ninya on her credit card on the previous billing period, on the last day of the previous billing period, that is the month of October, was 9,710 pesos. And this would be carried out to this current billing period from November 1 to November 15. Therefore, at the beginning of the first day, November 1, we write 9,710 as the balance at the beginning of day 1 on the credit card of Ninya. And on November 1, she makes no purchases. She did not use her credit card. There was no transaction on November 1. And she did not make any payment on her credit card. So at the end of the day 1, at the end of the first day of November 1, the current balance in her credit card would still be 9,710 pesos. On November 2, there was a transaction made using her credit card. She bought the medicines worth 864 pesos and Ninya made use of her credit card to pay for medicines worth 964 pesos. At the beginning of the second day, we write day 2. The balance now would be the current balance at the end of the first day, 9,710 pesos. And on November 2, as given in the problem, Ninya made a transaction using her credit card to pay for medicines worth 864 pesos. So her credit card would be charged with this amount, 864 pesos. And we write in this column for November 2, 864 pesos. And there was no payment made on November 2 by Ninya. So the current balance now on her credit card would be 9,710 plus 864 pesos. And we find that total using our calculator. We have 9,710 pesos plus the charges on her credit card worth 864 pesos for the medicine she bought using her credit card on November 2 plus 864. At the end of November 2, the current balance now on her credit card is 10,574 pesos. 10,574 pesos is the balance at the end of November 2, at the end of the second day of November on the credit card of Nina. And this would be the balance at the beginning of the third day of November, or November 3. We write November 3, balance 10,574 pesos. And let us check if Nina made another transaction on November 3. Yes, there was a transaction. Nina made a purchase in the department store using her credit card to pay for the amount of 1,975 pesos. So her credit card would be charged with this amount, 1,975 pesos for the purchases she made on November 3. And no payment to the bank to reduce her balance on her credit card is made on November 3. So at the end of the third day of November, the current balance on the credit card of Nina is 10,574 plus 1,975 pesos. You simply add that using your calculator. 10,574 pesos plus the charges on her credit card for the amount of 1,975 pesos. And at the end of the third day, the current balance on her credit card is 12,549 pesos. And this balance at the end of November 3 would be the balance that would be carried on at the beginning of November 4, the fourth day of November. And let us check if there was a transaction made by Nina on November 4. There was no transaction made on November 4 as well as on November 5. So on November 4, no charges made on the credit card. No payment was made by Nina. At the end of the fourth day of November, the current balance on the credit card of Nina would be 12,549. And this balance of 12,549 at the end of November 4 would be the balance at the beginning of the fifth day of November. We write 5 for November 5. At the beginning of November 5, the balance would be equal to the balance at the end of November 4, 12,549. And again, Nina did not use her credit card on November 5, and she made no payment to the bank on November 5, and her current balance would remain to be 12,549 at the end of November 5. And that amount at the end of November 5 would be the balance, her balance on her credit card at the beginning of November 6. And let us check if Nina made the transaction on November 6 using her credit card. There was a transaction. She took a Grab and she used her credit card to pay for the fare for the Grab. The fare was worth 314 pesos. So her credit card would be charged with this amount, 314 pesos. But she made no payment on November 6 to the bank. Hence, at the end of November 6, her current balance would be 12,549 pesos plus 314 pesos. And you get that sum using your calculator. We have 12,549 pesos plus 314 pesos. And you should get 12,863 pesos. This amount of 12,863 pesos at the end of November 6 would be the balance on the credit card of Nina at the beginning of November 7. Let us see if she made transaction on November 7. November 7 and 8 there was no transaction. Hence, no charges on her credit card on November 7. She made no payment on November 7. At the end of the 7th day of November, the balance on the credit card of Nina would be 12,863. And that balance at the end of November 7 would be the balance at the beginning of November 8. On November 8, Nina did not use her credit card, so there would be no charges made on the credit card, and she made no payment to the bank for the balance to reduce her balance on her credit card. Hence, at the end of the 8th day of November, or at the end of November 8, her current balance would be 12,863. And this amount of 12,863 at the end of November 8 would be her balance on her credit card at the beginning of November 9. On November 9, Nina made a payment to the bank worth 5,000 pesos. This payment is for the credit card to reduce her balance on her credit card. And so we write 5,000 pesos payment to the bank in this column. 5,000 pesos. And the payment to the bank of 5,000 pesos for her credit card would be deducted from her current balance at the beginning of November 9. And her current balance at the end of November 9 would be 12,863 minus 5,000 pesos. And we compute that difference using our calculator. $12,863 minus 12,863, the balance at the beginning of November 9, minus the payment of 5,000 pesos for the credit card. And her balance at the end of November 9 is 7,863 pesos. Let us see if there was no transaction on November 10 as well as on November 11. So this amount of 7,863 at the end of November 9 would be the balance on her credit card at the beginning of November 10. And Nina did not use her credit card on November 10, and she made no payment on November 10. Therefore, at the end of November 10, her current balance would be her balance at the beginning of November 10, 7,863. And this amount of 7,863 at the end of November 10 would be her balance at the beginning of November 11. And there were no charges made on the credit card on November 11. Nina did not use her credit card on November 11. And she made no payment to the bank on November 11. Thus, at the end of November 11, her current balance would be her balance at the beginning of November 11, 7,863 pesos. And this amount of 7,863 pesos at the end of November 11 would be her balance at the beginning of November 12. And let us check if she made a transaction on November 12. There was a transaction. She made use of her credit card to pay for her groceries worth 3,225 pesos. So in this column, on November 12, her credit card was charged with 3,225 pesos for groceries. And now the total balance at the end of November 12, because she did not make any payment to the bank on November 12, her balance at the end of November 12 would be 7,863 plus the charges on her credit card on November 12 for groceries worth 3,225 pesos. And we get the total of these two using our calculator. 7,863, the current balance at the beginning of November 12, plus the charges on her credit card worth 3,225 pesos. And the current balance now at the end of November 12 on her credit card is 11,088 pesos. And this amount at the end of November 12 would be her balance at the beginning of November 13. Let us check again in the problem if she made a transaction on November 13 using her credit card. And there was no transaction made on November 13 and November 14 by Nina using her credit card. So there was no charges on her credit card on November 13 and she made no payment to the bank on November 13. Hence, at the end of November 13, the balance on her credit card would be 11,088 pesos. And this amount at the end of November 13 would be her balance at the beginning of November 14, 11,088 pesos. Again, there was no transaction made on November 14 using her credit card. So her credit card was not charged on November 14 and she made no payment on November 14. Therefore, at the end of November 14, her current balance would be the balance at the beginning of November 14, 11,088 pesos. And this amount of 11,088 pesos at the end of November 14 would be her balance at the beginning of November 15. And let us check in the problem again if she made a transaction on November 15. She made a payment to the bank for her credit card worth 1,500 pesos. So in the second to the last column, we write 1,500 pesos as payment to the bank to reduce her balance on her credit card. And so at the end of the 15th of November, November 15, the current balance now in her credit card is 11,088 minus the payment of 1,500 pesos. And we compute the difference using our calculator. $11,088 pesos minus the payment of 1,500 pesos. And her balance at the end of November 15 is 9,588 pesos. These are the balances at the end of each day over the billing period from November 1 to November 15. Now we get the sum of the last column or the total of the daily balances. And we will divide that total by 15 days to get the average daily balance. We add the last column beginning with 9,710 pesos. Plus 10,574. Plus 12,549. That is, you add 12,549 3 times. Plus 12,863, and we add 12,863 3 times. Plus 7,863, again we add 7,863 3 times. Plus 11,088, which we add 3 times. And the last balance, the balance on November 15, 9,588. And you should get a total of 162,961. This total amount, the total of the daily balances, we divide by 15 days because, as I said, our billing period consists of 15 days. To get the average daily balance, or ADB. The average daily balance is computed using this formula. The total daily balance is the total daily balance. You add the daily balances over the period of the billing period, and divide by capital N the number of days in the billing period, which in our example is equal to 15 days. Our total daily balance is 162,961, and the number of days in our billing period is 15 days. We divide 162,961 by 15 using our calculator. And you should get 10,864.07. And this is the average daily balance. This means that on a daily basis, the balance on the credit card of Ninya is 10,864.07, or the balance on the credit card of Ninya is 10,864.07 on the average. Daily, on daily average, based on daily average. And the interest on credit card of Nina over the billing period of 15 days will be based on this average daily balance. The interest on credit card is equal to the average daily balance multiplied by the interest rate per period. We are given that the interest on credit cards charged by the bank is 15% compounded monthly. And I here would be the interest rate per month. The interest rate per year given is 15%, in decimal number is 0.15, and we divide that by 12 because the interest will be computed monthly, and the monthly rate or the interest rate per month would be J divided by M, 0.15 divided by 12. And we use 0.15 divided by 12 to multiply that by the average daily balance and to get the interest on credit card of Nina. We calculate the interest. We have 10,864.07. Multiply that by 0.15 divided by 12. Now, you notice that we use the interest rate per month, but our billing period is just half a month. That is a period over 15 days. So, 135.80 is the interest per month. And we should divide this by 2 to get the interest rate for half a month or 15 days. 135.80 divided by 2. And you should get 67.90. Hence, over the billing period of 15 days, the interest on credit card of Linya is 67.90 pesos. But actually, the total amount that Linya owes the bank, that Linya has to pay the bank, is 9,588 plus the interest of 67.90 pesos. And this interest will be deducted from her payments to the bank to reduce her balance on her credit card. Now, we will solve the same problem, exactly the same problem, but we will now use 15% compounded daily. Solve the same problem involving the credit card of Nina to illustrate another method for computing interest on credit cards. In this second method for computing interest on credit cards, the interest is based not on average daily balance, but the interest is computed on a daily basis. That is, for each day of the billing period, the interest will be computed. And so we find the interest rate per day by dividing the given interest rate per year by 360. Because the bank uses 360 days in 1 year instead of 365 days in 1 year. Because if you would take the reciprocal of 360 and 365, you will get a bigger value for the reciprocal of 360 instead of using the reciprocal of 365. And we also present the computation of the interest on credit card using the second method, where the interest is computed daily in a table such as this one. This table is very similar to the first table we used for the average daily balance method, except for the addition of the last column for the interest per day. Before we start, we compute the interest rate per day. In the given problem, we are given that the interest rate is 15% compounded monthly. Now we will take this as 15% compounded daily. Thus, to get the interest rate per day, we divide 15% or 0.15 by 360. The given interest rate we now take as, instead of 15% compounded monthly, we now take the interest rate as 15% compounded daily. And so we compute the interest rate per period, in this case interest rate per day, denoted by I is equal to J, the interest rate per year, divided by the number of interest computations in 1 year. For the interest rate compounded daily, the interest will be computed 360 times. That is for each day of 360 days in a year. Hence, the interest rate per day is 0.15 divided by 360. As with the original given problem, we have the original. We take the same transactions that Minya made in using her credit cards. We have 864 charges on her credit card. On November 2, 1,975 was charged on her credit card on November 3, and 314 pesos was charged on her credit card on November 6, and 3,225 was charged on her credit card on November 12. And there were 2 payments made by Nina to the bank for her to reduce her balance in her credit card. The first payment was made on November 9, 5,000 pesos. The second payment was made on the 15th of November for 1,500 pesos. And we still have 9,710 balance at the beginning of the first day of November, which this was actually the balance on the last day of October, the previous billing period. And for the current billing period or billing cycle from November 1 to November 15, we compute the interest to be paid by Nina using interest computed on a daily basis. So the balance on the last day of October was carried on to this current billing period from November 1 to November 15, and 9,710 pesos is now taken as the balance at the beginning of November 1. And Nia did not use her credit card on November 1. There were no charges on her credit cards. She did not make any payment on November 1. Hence, the current balance at the end of the first day is, on the first day of November, is 9,710 pesos. And the interest will be computed at the end of the first day, November 1, based on this current balance, 9,710 pesos. The interest is obtained by multiplying this current balance, 9,710 pesos, by the interest rate per day, 0.15 divided by 360. So using your calculator, you multiply 9,710 pesos by 0.15 and divide the product by 360. and you round off your answer in your calculator to 2 decimal places. We have 9,710 multiply by 0.15 and divide by 360. To 2 decimal places, you round off your answer from your calculator. You should get 4.05. So the interest earned or charge on the credit card by the bank is on the first day, after the first day of November, is 4.05 pesos. And this will be added to the current balance, and the sum would be the balance at the beginning of the second day of November. You add 4.05 plus 9,710, and you should get 9,714.05. Again, the balance at the beginning of the second day of November was obtained by adding the current balance at the end of the first day of November and the interest earned at the end of the first day of November 1. 4.05 plus 9,710 equals 9,714.05 pesos. And Nina made use of her credit card on November 2, and 864 pesos was charged on her credit card. And this is to be added to this balance at the beginning of November 2 to get the current balance or the balance at the end of November 2. We add 9,714.05 plus 964 pesos. $864. And you should get 10,578.05. This balance at the end of the second day of November will be the basis for computing the interest on the second day of November. This current balance, 10,578.05, is multiplied by 0.15 and the product is divided by 360. We have 10,578.05, multiply that by 0.15. And divide the product by 360. And to 2 decimal places, you should get 4.41 pesos. Again, the interest earned on the first day of November plus the current balance at the end of November 1, 9,710 plus 4.05 is 9,714.05 pesos, and 864 was charged on her credit cards. So the current balance at the end of November 2 is 9,714.05 plus 864 equals 10,578.05. And this should be on this line, not here. And the balance at the end of the second day earns an interest. We multiply 10,578.05 by the interest rate per day, 0.15, divided by 360. And to 2 decimal places, you should get 4.41 pesos. This is the interest earned on the credit card, charge on the credit card on the second day of November. And this interest will be added to the current balance at the end of the second day, or November 2. to get the sum, which becomes the balance at the beginning of the third day of November, or November 3. So we add 10,578.05 plus 4.41. 10,578.05 plus 4.41. The sum is 10,582.46, and this sum would be the balance at the beginning of the third day of November, or November 3. 10,582.46. On November 3, Nina made use of her credit cards, and the credit card was charged 1,975 pesos. This is to be added to the balance at the beginning of November 3. So we add 10,582.46 and 1,975 using our calculator. Plus 1,975. There was no payment made on November 3. So at the end of November 3, the current balance on the credit card of Nina is 12,557.46. $12,557.46 will earn an interest, and the interest is obtained by multiplying this current balance at the end of November 3 by 0.15 and divide by 360. 12,557.46, multiply that by 0.15 and divide the product by 360. To 2 decimal places, you should get 5.23 pesos. And this interest plus the current balance at the end of November 3 will be added to become the balance at the beginning of November 4, or the fourth day of November. We have 12,557.46 plus the interest on the third day, 5.23 pesos. And you should get 12,562.69. Nina did not use her credit card on November 4, and she did not make payment to the bank on November 4. Hence, the current balance at the end of November 4 is 12,562.69. And this balance of 12,562.69 will earn an interest for the fourth day of November. Multiply 12,562.69 by 0.15 divided by 360. 12,562.69 multiplied by 0.15 and divide by 360. And the interest earned on the fourth day of November is, to 2 decimal places, 5.23. Thus you can see that even if Nina did not use her credit card on November 4, interest is charged on the credit card of Nina. to the amount of 5.23 pesos. And this interest on the 4th day of November will be added to the current balance at the end of November 4. You add 12,562.69 plus 5.23. 12,562.69 plus the interest earned on the 4th of November, 5.23. You should get 12,567.92. Again, no charges were made on the credit card on November 5, and no payment was made by Linya on November 5 to the bank. Hence, the balance at the end of November 5 is equal to the balance at the beginning of November 5, 12,567.92. But this balance at the end of the 5th day of November will earn an interest. Multiply 12,567.92 by 0.5 and divide by 360. $12,567.92, multiply that by 0.15 and divide by 360. Again, you should get to 2 decimal places 5.24. And add the interest to the balance at the end of the 5th day or November 5, 12,567.92 plus 5.24. 12,567.92 plus 5.24. And you should get 12,573.16. And Linya made use of her credit card to pay for this amount of 314 pesos. But there was no payment made by Linya on November 6. Thus, the current balance at the end of November 6 is the sum of 12,573.16 and 314 pesos. $314. And you should get 12,887.16, the current balance at the end of November 6. And this balance at the end of November 6 will earn an interest. Multiply that amount by 0.15 and divide by 360. To 2 decimal places, you should get 5.37 pesos. And again, add this interest earned at the end of November 6 to the current balance at the end of November 6, 12,887.16 plus 5.37. 12,887.16 plus 5.37. And this sum, 12,892.53, becomes the balance at the beginning of November 7. And you can see that There were no charges made on the credit card of Nina, which means that Nina did not use her credit card on November 7, and no payment was also made by Nina on November 7. Hence, the current balance at the end of November 7 is the same as the balance at the beginning of November 7, 12,892.53. And this amount multiplied by the interest rate per day, 0.15 divided by 360. 12,892.53 multiplied by 0.15 and divide by 360. To two decimal places, you should get 5.37 pesos. The interest 5.37 is added to the balance at the end of November 7, 12,892.53. Plus the interest on the 7th day, 5.37 pesos. And the sum, 12,897.90, is the balance at the beginning of November 8. Again, there were no charges made on the credit card of Nina on November 8, which meant that Nina did not choose her credit card on November 8, and she did not also make any payment onto the bank on November 8. Thus, the balance at the end of November 8 is the same as the balance at the beginning of November 8, 12,897.90. And to get the interest based on this current balance at the end of November 8, multiply this by the interest rate per day, 0.15 divided by 360. 12,897.90 multiplied by 0.15 divided by 360. To two decimal places, again, you should get 5.37. And the interest plus the current balance at the end of the 8th day are added. 12,897.90 plus 5.37. The sum you should get is 12,903.27, which is now taken as the balance at the beginning of November 9. Now, on November 9, Nina paid the bank the amount of 5,000 pesos to reduce her balance on her credit card. So we deduct 5,000 pesos from her balance on her credit card of 12,903.27 minus 5,000. And that's the balance at the end of November 9 after Nina paid the bank 5,000 pesos on November 9. We have 12,903.27 minus the payment of 5,000 pesos. And you should get 7,903.27. And we compute the daily interest, in particular the interest on the 9th day of November based on this current balance at the end of November 9. 7,903.27, multiply that by the interest rate per day, 0.15 divided by 360. 7,903.27 multiplied by 0.15. And divide the product by 360. And the interest earned to 2 decimal places, you should get 3.29. To get the balance at the beginning of November 10, we add the balance at the end of November 9 plus the interest on November 9. 7,903.27 plus 3.29. 7,903.27 plus the interest of 3.29. And you should get 7,906.56. This is now the balance at the beginning of November 10. And there were no transactions on November 10, no charges on credit card, and no payments made on November 10. Thus, at the end of November 10, the current balance is 7,906.56. And we compute the interest for November 10. Multiply the current balance at the end of November 10, 7,906.56 multiplied by the interest rate per day, 0.15 divided by 360. $7,906.56 multiplied by 0.15. And divide the result in your calculator by 360. To 2 decimal places, you should get 3.29 pesos. And 3.29 pesos is added to the balance at the end of November 10, 7,906.56 plus 3.29. We have 7,906.56 plus 3.29. You should get 7,909.85. Again, there were no transactions made on November 11, no charges on the credit card of Ninya, and no payments made by Ninya. Thus, at the end of November 11, the balance is the same as the balance at the beginning of November 11, 7,909.85. And we compute the interest for November 11 based on this current balance at the end of November 11, 7,909.85 multiply that by the interest rate per day, 0.19 divided by 360. And to 2 decimal places, you should get 3.30 pesos. And to get the balance at the beginning of the 12th day of November, we add the current balance at the end of November 11 plus the interest on November 11, 7,909.85 plus 3.30. $7,909.85 plus 3.30. And you should get 7,913.15. Now, an amount of 3,225 pesos was charged on her credit card which meant that Nina used her credit card on November 12 to pay for this amount of 3,225 pesos. But there was no payment made by Nina to the bank on November 12. Therefore, the balance at the end of November 12 is equal to the sum of this balance at the beginning of November 12 plus the charges of this amount on her credit card. 7,913.50 plus 3,225 pesos. 7,913.15 plus 3,225 pesos. And the sum is 11,138.15. This is now the current balance at the end of November 12. And the interest for November 12 will be computed based on this current balance at the end of November 12. Multiply this amount by 0.15 divided by 360. We have 11,138.15, multiply that by 0.15 divided by 360. And you should get to two decimal places 4.64 pesos. Now we add the interest on November 12 plus the current balance at the end of November 12 to get the sum, which is the balance at the beginning of November 13. 11,138.15 11,138.15 plus the interest on November 12, 4.64. The sum should be 11,142.79. This is the balance at the beginning of November 13, where no transactions were made either on the credit card or payment to the bank. Thus, the balance at the end of November 13 is equal to 11,142.79. And we multiply this amount, the balance at the end of November 13, by the interest rate per day to get the interest for November 13. 11,142.79, multiply that by 0.15. And divide by 360. And to two decimal places, you should get 4.64. Again, we add the interest on November 13 plus the balance at the end of November 13 using our calculator, 11,142.79 plus the interest of 4.64. And you should get 11,147.43. There were no charges made on the credit card on November 14, and also no payment made by Nina on November 14. Hence, the balance at the end of November 14 is the same as the balance at the beginning of November 14, 11,147.43. Now we compute the interest for November 14 based on this balance at the end of November 14. Multiply that amount, 11,147.43 multiplied by 0.15 and divide by 360. 2 decimal places again, you should get 4.64 pesos. Which we add to the balance at the end of November 14, 11,147.43 plus 4.64. 11,147.43 plus the interest on November 14 of 4.64. You should get 11,152.07. There were no charges made on the credit card of Nina on November 15, which meant that she did not use her credit card on November 15, but she made a payment to the bank to the amount of 1,500 pesos. And this should be deducted to her balance on her credit card. So we get the difference of 11,152.07 minus 1,500. 11,152.07 minus the payment of 1,500 pesos. The current balance now at the end of the billing period is 9,652.07. And we compute the interest on the last day for the last day of the billing period based on this current balance at the end of November 15. 9,652.07, multiply that by 0.15 and divide by 360. To 2 decimal places, you should get 4.02. When you reach the last day of the billing period and you have computed the interest for the last day of the billing period, you now add the last column. You add the interest for the days of the billing period. Add the interest earned for each day of the billing period, and you will get and the total would be the interest for the billing period November 1 to November 15. We start with 4.05 plus 4.41 plus 5.23 is added twice. Plus 5.24 plus 5.37 is added 3 times. Plus 3.29, we add 3.29 twice. Plus 3.30 plus 4.64 is added 3 times. Plus 4.02, the interest earned on the last day of the billing period. And you should get 68.09 pesos. And this amount of 68.09 pesos is the interest earned for the billing period from November 1 to November 15, which is equivalent to 15 days. And you can see that this interest earned using this method for computation of interest rate, for computation of interest on credit card based on daily interest is slightly different from the interest we get from the average daily balance method for computing the interest on credit cards, but the difference is very slight and almost negligible. And this ends the solution for our example 2, or for the second method for computing interest on credit cards. For your practice, please try the following exercises. Number 1, compute the interest on credit card of NAT with balance from previous billing period of 13,090.25 pesos. And the following transactions were made for the billing period from November 16 to November 30 of 2020. On November 17, NAT took the Grab and paid the fare using her credit card for the amount, and her credit card was charged the amount of 273 pesos. On November 19, na paid Lazada using her credit card the amount of 3,124 pesos. On November 20, she made a payment to the bank to reduce her balance on her credit card the amount of 2,000 pesos. On November 23, she paid her insurance worth 863 pesos using her credit card. On November 25, she paid her Meralco bill, electric bill worth 3,200 pesos, and she used her credit card. On November 27, she made another payment to the bank to reduce her balance on her credit card, and the payment she made to the bank was 1,750 pesos. On November 30, she dined in at McDonald's restaurant, and she paid her bill worth 986 pesos using her credit card. The bank charges 20% compounded monthly use average daily balance method. And number 2, redo number 1 using 20% compounded daily. The same information given except that the interest rate now is compounded daily, similar to our example 2. And computing daily interest. In number 2, you will use another way for computing interest on credit card by using the interest computation on a daily basis. And that completes our lesson for today on interest computations on credit cards. If you have a question about the lesson today, you ask your question in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Art Calison, the channel of learning and leisure. Thank you for joining me in my class today in Mathematics of Investment.